Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. The October 15th deadline for extension filers is almost here. IRS tax tip 20-122, September 21st, 2020. The October 15th filing deadline for taxpayers who requested an extension to file their 2019 tax return is quickly approaching. So remember, there was a little bit of a delay on the original filing, and that was pushed out from April to July 15th. But then you could file an extension on July 15th, which is kind of like the normal extension process. But this time you'd be filing it by July deadline instead of the April deadline. But they did not extend the extension deadline. And therefore, if you filed an extension, then it will be due on the normal kind of extension deadline, which is October 15th, which is quickly approaching here. Taxpayers should remember they can file whenever they're ready and don't have to wait until Thursday, October 15th. So clearly, just because you filed an extension and you have until October 15th, you don't have to wait until October 15th, the IRS is saying. They'd be more than happy for you to file sooner within that time frame if you so choose. So these tools are available on Irs.gov to help people with their taxes. IRS Free File and other electronic filing options. So that you have this free file option there. So if you're below a certain threshold, you might want to check out the IRS Free File tool. That can be useful anytime you're looking at any type of tool. You probably want to be considering your state needs as well to see whether that tool will pick up your state needs so that you could file one tax return for the state and the Fed if you have any state taxes that are going to be necessary. If you're over a threshold of an income threshold, you may not be able to use that tool. You may be able to use TurboTax or H&R Block software if you so choose. And if you're over a certain threshold, then you probably want to get some tax advice and look for a tax professional. Taxpayers can file their tax return electronically for free. IRS Free File, there's a link to the free file at the IRS here. Other electronic filing options, there's a link to other electronic filing options, include using a free tax return preparation site, commercial software, or authorized e-file provider. So there's a link to the authorized e-file provider. Direct deposit for refunds. The fastest way for taxpayers to get their refund is to file electronically and use direct deposit. So they're really pushing for everybody to be filing electronically now. They've been doing that for a long time. The whole COVID thing has increased their push for everybody to file electronically. And now they're really pushing to get everybody on this direct deposit information. And they're saying, of course, on the refund side, it's really beneficial to have the direct deposit or information so that they can get you the refund faster. On the payment side, their argument isn't so strong because obviously, then you might not care as much if your check gets lost, stuck in the mail for a little while and doesn't get cashed. But on the refund side, if you're getting a refund, then you might want to set up the banking information here so that you can get the refund as fast as possible. Most of the software that you will be using will have that option available with it. So refunds can be deposited in up to 3 accounts. Taxpayers can also use their refunds to purchase up to $5,000 in U.S. Series 1 servings bonds. So you can buy bonds with it. And there's a link to that here if you'd like to do that. Online payment options. And if an extension filer owes taxes, they should pay as much as possible by October 15th deadline to reduce interest and penalties. So if you owe taxes, remember that basically the filing extension that you had is really to eliminate penalties and interest regarding the late filing. And that doesn't really account for the other thing that's going to be late payments. They still want their money by the deadline, even though you're going to extend the deadline for the filing. So if you owe money, then you discover that you owe money, you might want to pay it as soon as possible so that you can avoid the building up of penalties and interest on the amount that would be owed. So even if you don't file until October and you have this little time period here, you might want to make a deposit just to avoid penalties and interest for late payment. So Irs Direct Pay, there's a link to Irs Direct Pay, allows individuals to securely pay from their checking or savings account. Visit Irs.gov for additional payment options. There's a link to that here. Account information and tax records. Individual taxpayers can visit Irs.gov to manage their account. There's a link to manage their account here. This includes viewing their balance and payment history, paying taxes, and assessing tax records through Get Transactions. These people may have more time to file their tax return. Military members serving in a combat zone or a contingency operation in support of the American Armed Forces get more time to file. So there's a link to get more time to file. So if you're in a combat zone, the IRS is gracious enough to extend the tax deadline here. And if you're in a combat zone, thank you for your service. People who have a valid extension and are in or affected by federally declared disaster may be allowed more time to file. So there's a link to that here as well. Taxpayers should keep a copy of their tax return and all supporting documents for at least 3 years.